We got back from Greece last week. Took a trip. Here we have an October break, so we got a week off, which was really, really nice. And we went to Athens. I went with my friend John. We spent the whole week in Athens at a little Airbnb, which was really cheap and very doable in short notice. Short notice because we planned very, very late. But it was a good time. We did get to see a soccer game at the end of our trip as well, which was fun. A football trip. I'm getting used to saying that now. Athens is a very interesting place. It's much busier than Doris. Baby is silly.
Yeah.
Much busier, so that was an adjustment. And we were warned pretty early on. We were warned early on that pickpocketing could be a huge issue there, so I was pretty careful. We did not get robbed, so the trip was a success. I did have a friend that got pickpocketed pretty bad and lost her passport, which was really unfortunate. So I've been more aware when I'm traveling. Good tips for travel. The only downside of Athens, and I posted this on my Instagram.
I play soccer. I play soccer.
The only downside was the harassment on the street, for sure. There were a few instances where where I was being catcalled, which was a bit absurd because normally with Foster, it's not something that happens anymore when I'm walking with him. And it's not an Athens specific problem, not by far. But the thing is, at this point in my life, I'm pretty fed up with a lot of that kind of behavior. And there was one really creepy instance where we were walking along late at night and we turned a corner and it was like the neighborhood just flipped the switch and we went from the nice Indian restaurant we were at to suddenly being in a really, really sketchy place. And we were walking along and my friend John was walking in front of me and I was holding Foster's hand. And these three young guys were walking the opposite direction and they... I made eye contact with one of them, which I try not to do on the street just because it invites all sorts of lewd comments sometimes. So I made eye contact, and these guys started following us immediately. One of them, the one that I made eye contact with, kind of nudged his friends, and they got right behind. I mean, they were right on my back, and they were following us along this road. And John picked up on it pretty quick too. So we were both pretty high alert, and I moved my purse to the front of my body just in case anything should happen. I kept Foster pretty close. Okay, you need to go to your room and play then?
No.
Okay, so sit quietly with me if you want to stay.
Okay.
It was creepy. And they followed us for probably, I don't know, a block and a half, and then I finally kind of pulled to the side and forced him to go around us, but we were on our way to a donut shop, got our donuts, and on the way back we ended up taking a taxi just to stay safe. And then later on we were walking along and I was getting catcalled pretty bad. And we came back to Doris. It was nice to be back where I felt safe walking around alone at night, which is a huge deal. That is not common. And away from comments like that. It had been a while since I've been in a city where I had to worry about that. And I was really frustrated by it. And obviously disgusted by it. And so coming home, it was like breathing a sigh of relief, finally being back where I felt safe and comfortable. But that said, I'm coaching football, soccer, with these high school girls, and wanting to provide them with a role model, somebody. Okay, go play. You're being too loud. Provide them with a role model that helps them to advocate for themselves and not put up with the same things that I put up with for years. It's really hard in this culture, even though I feel safe walking around. I would say almost every game that I go to with them, there are young men hanging around and harassing them while they're trying to play. They sit on the sidelines of these fences and they like shout things in while they're trying to play. And I'm looking around like, is anybody policing this? Some of them aren't even students. Go to your room and play. Yeah. You're having a hard time listening. You can sit quietly with me. You can sit quietly with me, or you can go play in your room. You want to sit quietly with me? So anyway, going to Athens and experiencing that really made me more aware of how I deal with those events here at home to help those girls be prepared for what they deal with, because they're dealing with it. And I think it is a side effect of having a very male-centered patriarchal culture that women are just expected to roll over and take that kind of abuse, and it's really frustrating to watch, and wanting to help them feel strong enough in themselves that they don't have to continue to please these people that are objectifying them. So that's my soapbox feminist rant for the day, but truly...
Goodbye.
Okay, that's enough. Truly, it is an overwhelming systemic problem that I struggle with every day here, especially with those older girls, but even the 4 little girls in my grade 4 class with the sheer number of boys that we have. So I guess as a call to arms to any men watching this, advocate for the women around you, because there aren't many people doing it, and as much as we may try as female role models, it can be an overwhelming issue, and sometimes we need to be advocated for as well. I was very glad that I had John with me while I was traveling, and yet I still felt a bit bitter that I could not feasibly travel by myself and feel safe in a way that I feel like I could keep Foster safe. Like, if I'd been alone when those men started following me, I don't know what I would have done, and that's both terrifying and infuriating, really. Anyway, good things about Greece. That was really negative. There's a beautiful, beautiful park in the middle of Athens with a play structure, and I've been having a hard time feeling recharged. I've been so busy, which is why I haven't been updating the blog very much. That was the first time that I felt really recharged. Foster got to play on all this wonderful equipment, surrounded by nature, because it's like a nature reserve too, and there were like animals. There's a lake with animals. I'll post photos below. But I also got to sit there and read. I'm reading this lovely, lovely book. I'm just head over heels for. I've actually been putting off finishing it, reading in small doses, because I love savoring every chapter. But it takes place in Greece, and so while we were there, I'm reading this book at the park and just feeling finally at peace with my soul, getting back to my roots, reading in nature, while Foster was able to work off some energy. So there's some really lovely parts of it. Obviously the history and the ruins were incredible, but I think that's maybe my favorite part, was finding a park. There aren't a lot of parks here. And by not a lot, I mean I don't know that I've actually seen a park here. Durrës has a lot to offer, but parks are hard to come by. They're like play structures attached to restaurants, but there aren't any like designated public parks. And there's not a lot of grassy areas for that matter. So there aren't fields for kids to run around in, which explains actually a lot of why they have so much energy to work off, because there aren't many places to do it. So one of the things we've discussed as primary teachers here is how to better meet their physical needs, because they're active kids and there's nowhere for them to go. And Foster struggles with that too. So we're working on that. So it was a nice reprieve to be able to go to a park We got back from Greece last Sunday, so a week ago. And the week back was my wrap-up of my first IB unit, just sort of fast and furious, staying afloat, just keeping alive, planning day by day, sometimes hour by hour. Now heading into my next unit, I feel like I have a better grip on how IB works and what I'm doing. So I'm really excited for this next one. Hopefully I'll procrastinate a little less, manage my time better. I won't have to go to soccer here in a few weeks, so I'll be able to focus more on that. So things are looking up. There's good and bad with everything, and I do promise to be honest. And there's a lot of things happening right now in the background that can be really stressful, can be really taxing. But overall, I would say that we're finally falling into a rhythm, a really pleasant rhythm, where we've made some wonderful friends, fosters, used to living abroad in a lot of ways. We know where we go to shop. Our neighbors look out for us, picking up pieces of Albanian itty-bitty little bits. Hoping to get into some better lessons here soon. So, yeah, I just wanted to, I guess, do a quick check-in since I haven't been very good about updating this. I think videos are easier. I have less thought behind them. Wow, that sounds bad. Less thought behind them. I just kind of ramble, but that's what happens. But it is faster for me to do than writing. So I think maybe most of the time it'll be videos with a bunch of posters underneath. So this one can be our Greece trip, our October break, and I'll post a bunch of photos below of all the cool places we went and all the things we saw. Coming up next month, this is really, really exciting. I'm so excited. So I have two bands that I have been obsessed with for the last couple of years. One of my old friends back home showed me these two bands, and I've been obsessed with them ever since. One is Han, and the other is Tom Misch, and they're both touring right now, and they're both amazing. I've heard that they're incredible live, and so my friend Rachel here and I were like, you know what if we tried to go to those? So we looked up tickets, and sure enough, we can make it happen. So we're taking two weekends, and the first weekend we're going to Austria to see Han, and the second one we're going to Frankfurt near the end of the month to see Tom Misch, and that's going to be really neat, crossing up a couple countries. Both of them, Foster is actually going to stay here with another close friend of mine. So they're 2 free weekends, which is going to be crazy because we haven't really been apart since we've been here. So that'll be my first real break. I'm over the moon, absolutely over the moon about it. So I expect some updates after those. Anyway, happy Halloween back home, and I hope you all have a good week coming up. Until next time, Foster, you want to say bye-bye? Come here.
Bye-bye, 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 bye.
Bye-bye.